Hey kids, welcome back to another video tutorial with Miss Carlin. Today we're going to be taking a look at composing fractions. In the previous videos we learned how to decompose fractions. Remember, decomposing fractions means to take a fraction and break it apart. So when we're composing fractions, instead of breaking it apart, we're actually going to be taking smaller pieces of a fraction and composing them or putting them back together to form a new fraction. So instead of breaking it apart to write an equation, we are going to use an equation to put the pieces back together. So we're going to start off with some simple unit fractions. The first ones that we are going to start with is, we're going to start with some simple unit fractions. The first equation we're going to start with is 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4. All you're doing is you're taking each one of the individual pieces and putting it together, because that's what addition is it's putting it back together. You're composing it. You're keeping it together. You're putting it back together. So my fraction bars, if I had them lined up next to each other, it would be 1/4, 1/4, 1/4. Well, I see right here I've got 3 1/4 pieces. So that tells me this is going to give me 3/4. If you were to break it down further and really think about it, okay, let's say you didn't take the route of just adding it straight across like I just did. You could also draw yourself a model to the side maybe and think, okay, well, I know that I'm going to end up with some kind of fourths. So I'm going to make myself a little model split into fourths. And I know I've got 1, 2, 3 pieces shaded in, and then you are right now checking, oh, well, that looks like to me that that's 3/4. So right here, I just showed you another way that you can visualize it or solve it in your mind. And you can also use this to make sure that your answer makes sense. My answer, you know, if I draw this model to really go in and say, hey, does my answer make sense? It is mathematically sound. It's a rational answer. So now we're going to move on to a little bit of a harder one. It's not too hard. Just don't overthink this, okay? It's pretty simple, but just don't overthink it. It really is just that simple. Alright, so down here for my next equation, I've got 2/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5. Now on this one, I'm going to show you it in both the model form like I did up here and just adding it together by drawing fraction tiles. So I'm going to show you both ways. So I've got 2/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5. If I'm going to take the fraction model route, I know right here I'm adding together fifths. And so that tells me that I'm going to have a model that's cut into 5 pieces because that's my denominator here. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. So this is what I do when I use the model method to compose a fraction. I'm going to start. I know each one of these pieces are going to be worth 1/5. We already know that. The unit fractions in my model here will be 1/5. So now I'm just going to go through the expression and shade in my model as I go. So right here I've got 2/5. So I'm going to color in 1, 2/5. Okay. Took care of him. Then I've got 1/5. Got another 5th. Alright, took care of him. And then right here I have another 5th. So I'm going to color another one in my model. And without thinking too hard into it, right here I'm looking and I can see that I have a model that represents 4 fifths. 4 out of 5 pieces of my models are shaded in. I could also draw it by drawing fraction tiles. So we know, again, the unit fraction we're dealing with is fifths. So I'm going to start by drawing 2/5 for right here. 1/5. 1/5, all right. I'm going to draw myself another 5th. 1/5. Okay, and one more 5th. All right. Either way, 1/5 plus 1/5, 2, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 fifths here. Either way, I still get an answer of 4/5. So again, you can either compose fractions. I'm giving you two different strategies here. You can make a model, or you can draw fraction tiles and use that to solve. But the key here is just taking your time and not overthinking it. Now, right now we're dealing with composing fractions that are less than a whole. When we do get to more than a whole, you know, there will be more strategies for that as well. So for right now, the big thing that I want you to take away from this is composing fractions. In decomposing fractions, we took one fraction and we broke it apart. That we decomposed it. Now we're composing them. So we're taking those smaller pieces and bringing them back together to compose a new fraction. I took these 3 smaller pieces, put them together to compose a fraction. Took all these small pieces, put them together to come up with and compose a fraction. Alright, hope you enjoyed the quick tutorial. I'll see you next time for composing fractions day 2. Babe. Chris. I finished with that video.